Hello everyone and welcome back to the second day of SUTD LCC 2021. LCC stands for Learning Celebration Carnival, and it's SUTD's annual event where our students share their experiential learning journeys around the world and showcase their experiences from various programs held over the past year. Today, we have a very exciting schedule set out for you. We'll be beginning the day with student presentations on their exciting internship experiences, followed by the live streaming of Gather.town. Then we'll be back at 4:30 p.m. for our keynote address 2 with Ms. Yvonne Tan. Ms. Yvonne Tan is a digital motor engineering manager. She's a key figure in Dyson Digital Motor Production and the Dyson NTU studio in Singapore. Lastly, we'll be ending off the celebration by having award ceremonies for the Freshmore Awards and Top Poster Awards. So to start off, we will now have our first group of student presenters to share more about their experience. So here we have Hung-Yi Lim and Kenzo Lim to share more about their experiences in our text. Guys, you can take it away.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Neha. We'll be trying to share our screen right now. Okay. A very good afternoon to all of you. I am Hung-Yi, founder of Altext. Today, I'm going to be sharing more about our startup, how did we start, and our progress thus far. And I'll be sharing what's coming up next for us.
I'm Kenzo, and I'm the other co-founder of Altext. So I'm a junior in EPD, and Hung-Yi is a junior in ISTD. So before we start, I want to do like a quick activity. So like we look at these three handwritten letters over here. Let's get a show of, not really hands, but
on the comments, on the YouTube comments.
On the YouTube comments, which one do you think was written by a human? So just for like
project room inside.
Yeah.
Inside project room.
We'll be waiting for around 20 seconds for your responses.
My airport decided to give up on me now. Oh.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
The answer is none of them.
No,
None of the cards that we shown there were written by humans. They are all written by robots.
Right. So this robot was actually like designed by us over the summer, and the idea behind our business is basically to use robots to increase our business's personal touch by writing handwritten letters for them, and overcoming the challenge of like having to handwrite letters yourself painstakingly using automation. So next we'll be showing a short video like that describes what we're doing.
All right, that was a short video showing our robot writing using a fountain pen. So I'll share a little bit more about the reasoning of why we decided to pursue this business idea. And also right now we are going to check on a case study by Hyatt Hotels. So in recent years, Hyatt Hotels actually tried using handwritten letters to re-engage their VIP clients. And using handwritten letters, they've actually found a 635% increase in their re-engagement of their clients. So after we saw this case study, we thought it was a kind of a good sign for this business.
Right.
So now I'll be explaining why there's a need for robots. I mean, all of us can write handwritten letters, right?
Okay, so just now as you saw in the case study of Hyatt, they actually sent out like 40,000 handwritten letters to like potential clients, which resulted in an 18% increase in rebooking rates. So 40,000 letters is a lot. Like obviously they were not going to hire like a whole army of like people to like handwrite for them because that just doesn't make sense from a logistical point of view. So an average person takes about 13 words per minute. I write at about 13 words per minute, which translates to 100 letters, taking 10 hours of work. So you can just imagine how long 40,000 letters is going to take, even if you have like a lot of people. Not to mention that after like 10 hours of writing, if you really sat there and wrote for 10 hours, right, the handwriting will look probably something like on the left, but the robot will continue writing at the same consistency throughout, and at the same speed as well. We actually went to try writing like letters ourselves, like just writing letters for 15 minutes straight, and our hands got like super
Destroyed.
sore.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, we are not practiced like letter writers, but still like the average human, for the average human is going to be like very difficult. So that's why we decided to that we found that this was an opportunity.
Mm.
Yeah.
So a little bit more about our technology that we use, as can be seen in the video just now, of like the whole process of how text can be translated into how the robot writes and like how the machine moves to execute the motions. So basically, using text, we use our own font processing software that some of them we created or we found online, then we combine all of them. Then after that, we slice them into G code. G code is something like how is what 3D printers use to actually print lah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess.
Okay. So now after we have shared about our startup idea, share a little bit more about our journey so that we can share about what we have learned, and hopefully you guys can learn from what we learned. Yeah.
Because this is actually we are first time entrepreneurs, so to speak. So this summer is actually like when we really got started, and like everything was like super new. Yeah.
Right. First up I'll share a little bit about how I got this idea for some context. So I was trying to learn some machine learning for my internship, and the first Hello World sort of like project for machine learning is actually recognizing handwritten numbers. So I was like thinking that it would be kind of cool if AI can actually learn a human's writing style, and then afterwards robot can then copy the handwriting style and replicate his writing infinitely. So that's how we got the main idea from.
Yeah. So as you guys will probably have guessed, like one of the main challenges of making the handwriting by the robot look legit is that when human handwriting, there's like a bit of randomness involved. So you can't exactly plug in like a font from the internet that looks like it's handwritten. Because like words like feel or look, where like there'll be two E's next to each other, it's immediately apparent that because of like how identical they are, even though it looks handwritten, you can still tell it was like written by a robot.
Yeah, and another like more something that we found out was something called ligages. Ligages is how alphabets connect to one another. And to make that look natural was a challenge that we had to face as well. So for this next video that we'll be commenting over will be like our first prototype that we call Beanbot. Yeah, it's like okay, so Beanbot is like made out of like 3D printed parts that we printed ourselves. Like the white color parts are all 3D printed. This is our first prototype out of many.
Yeah, so you can see that like since it's the first prototype, it doesn't really write very smoothly. This design is based off of like a plotter machine design, which is very similar to like what they use for laser engraving. Then I mean some of you might be wondering like why don't we just print out like the font like on paper, like rather than use like a pen. But the reason like this to us is quite obvious, like you can tell like quite clearly the difference between something that is penned down and something that is like printed using like a laser printer.
I guess what we are trying to replicate here is more of like the feeling of the personal touch or personal connection. I just think about it like, when's the last time someone handwritten a note or letter for you and actually sent it to you? With like modern technology getting more and more intense nowadays, you're just looking at emails and like messages. So we think that this new approach to engaging clients will be a big plus.
And yeah, I suppose that's a big part of the reason why the marketing campaign that Hyatt Hotels engaged was so successful. Because like consumers can really recognize when you put like the time and effort behind writing a handwritten letter itself. Okay, although here we're using a robot to do that for you. Yeah.
Right, in this picture and this video, right, this is our like sort of like second version that we assembled and using parts that are not really 3D printed, and they work quite a lot better and more reliably .
Yeah. So from a technical standpoint of like a startup, right? I guess this is where we talk about the idea of iterative prototyping. So you can see that this design is very similar to like the previous one, but it's built with more robust parts. And at this point, we have also upgraded like the software. So particularly the firmware of the machine that runs the G code. So what's so good about iterative prototyping is that like that first prototype that you saw, like we managed to get it out pretty fast. I think within a week or two, like of like near the start of our summer. Sorry, when we first came out with the idea. So we could straight away tell like whether or not like the idea is viable, and then from there like we work towards like the next quality benchmark that we're aiming for.
Of course, like having this robot doesn't mean much because we still have to take out the paper once it's being written and then put another piece of paper and start the machine. It's not really to say fully automated. So we have to make a paper feeding system and sort of a paper conveyor belt system to push the paper out after it has been finished writing. So as can be seen in this picture, is our first like ever prototype of it. So on the right side, you can see it's the paper feeder, where the paper will be put like one whole stack of it. Then in the center is will be where the paper will be written.
Right.
And this is like our latest prototype of it working.
Yeah. So in order to show that like it feeds properly, like we didn't get like the machine to write anything. Otherwise, like it will take quite long just to write the whole thing. But
yeah.
The idea is that you see like here at this point where it stops, then the water machine will start writing on it. When it's done, it will inject the paper.
Actually, this part took us the longest time, and like we spent quite some time getting the feeder and the exit system to work well. And now I'm glad to say that it's working well. So to tie both of these two different hardware systems up, we actually have a GUI, a graphic user interface that we have created. It's sort of like a form, and when we click the different buttons and the G codes that we want to print, it's able to execute like how many pieces and like whatever files that we need all in one go. So it's fully automated right now.
Yeah, so like to summarize like the tech journey of that we experienced over the summer, like why did it take us like almost 3 months just to make like what you saw in that video, right? There's a lot of like intricacies that go behind the paper feeding process. So example, right? Like how do we get it to feed from a stack so that only one paper comes out at a time? Like that in itself was a problem that took us I think like two weeks to settle. And like when we planned the timeline, we thought like we will be able to finish it early. But from experience now we know it's like whatever time we think that it will take, we should probably just double that, because like we're going to keep running into like issues that we don't foresee. And this is a big part about like entrepreneurship, especially if you're stepping into like an unknown field, unknown area, yeah. Okay, but I think like we're pretty proud of like what we managed to achieve so far. So like this is like some of like our finished products, and like the end result. So these two companies are actually businesses that are also owned by students in SUTD. It's all
Yeah.
you may have heard of them.
Yeah, then what we have done here is produce handwritten notes for them to send to their clients for each order that has been made on for the e-commerce side of things. So our hope for this is that their clients will get to have an increased rate of second purchase as well as an increase in their social media traffic. So I'll be ending off with what's next for us. So what's next for us will be continuing to tune our product market fit to find out who or what type of businesses will value our product, as well as continue to improve our technology to increase reliability, quality, as well as adding new features. And finally, we need to find more customers. Yeah. Okay. Next up will be Q&A. If anyone has any questions, feel free to leave them down in the YouTube comments.
One question has already come in. When are you fundraising and hiring?
When are we fundraising and hiring? For fundraising wise, we are thinking we can start taking in orders, and with the funds that we get, we can fund ourselves, as well as we have our own savings and everything. So we're planning to use that. But when there comes a time where we see a huge opportunity where we can't keep up with the demand, definitely we'll go and pitch and get huge sum of investment so that we can grow the business even faster. As for new hires, like recently, I think all along we've been like trying to get like help from our friends nearby or whatever. So in terms of getting help, yeah, we are trying to find help in a few areas. If any of you find this project quite interesting and think you can help out, maybe you can contact us.
Yeah, these are actually our Telegram handles
for reference. So any more questions for us? Oh, okay. Okay, I guess that is it. Thanks.
Wait. Got until 3 PM, I think.
Really? Oh, okay. Okay, we'll wait a bit more, I guess. Okay lah. Okay, so Sean Pei mentioned we will be able to integrate randomness of handwriting into the machine, like having multiple samples of the same letters and then having the machine automatically decide which iteration. Yeah, definitely in our software, we did some randomizations. Specifically speaking, for each font, we have 3 variations for now. And in our handwritten letters or notes, right, all the alphabets are like randomized across those 3 variations of similar styles. So if you look at words that have like maybe like 2 words stuck together, like feel or happy, the 2 alphabets, they are the same side by side, won't actually look exactly identical, even though they are the same alphabet and style. So that's how we have been approaching this problem. But I definitely think that there are better ways or like more generative ways of doing it to make it completely random, not say like random out of 3 different variations. Yeah, I hope that
right now, like actually when we created like the handwritten font, like for ourselves to use, right? The ones with the variation, like we had to like painstakingly draw out the glyphs in an SVG editor. So like Henry mentioned, it's not sustainable in the long run, which is why we're going to look towards like ML for like generative methods. Then we can grow our like font catalog much faster also.
Then Azrina asked, what are your plans for expansion? Like, are you planning to use different pen marker types or paper surfaces? Yeah, definitely. We actually currently use like quite a few different pen types like fountain pen, ballpoint pen, ink pen, and we tried using marker to like even draw or like sign people's like signatures and stuff lah. So as for paper surfaces, so far we have only tried like papers with like different GSM, like from the range of 150 to 300.
Yeah, but like as we delve more into this area, like we're learning that there's many different kinds of paper material also that will afford the consumer like different kinds of feel. Like for example, like linen paper feels like incredible. There's also like different forms of lamination, like soft touch lamination, which also feels very nice to touch. And so like the more premium ones, of course, like the increased cost price and like they will also need like special types of like pen, because like there's compatibility between like different types of pen and paper also. So yeah, those are all things for consideration, like which we definitely want to explore, because having that option to create like an even like more beautiful handwritten note is like something we're always working towards.
Okay, I think we have overshot the time by like 6 minutes. I think we'll end off right here. So if you have any more queries or anything you want to suggest or help out, or you are inspired by this project, want to let us know, feel free to tally us at these tally handles. Okay, thanks so much for your time and attention. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your wonderful experience in entrepreneurship and internship. Now, next up, we have Sunning to share about his internship experience with Amaris AI. Sunning, you can take it away.
Hi, yeah. Thanks everyone. And amazing presentation by Kenzo and Fanyi. Yeah. Okay. Let me just sorry. Give me a moment. Let me share screen. Hi. Hope everyone can see the screen, right? Yeah. So this will be like my sharing for Amaris. Right? So this is Amaris. Let me just provide some context of what this company does. Right? So basically, it's an AI and a cybersec firm. They sell solutions as well as customized consultations and whatnot. So you can see from the left, this taken from their website, right? You can see AI, cybersec, computing, and all sorts of services actually, right? If you dive a little bit deeper, you can see that they do like document automation, conversation AI, data diodes. I think if you're in the cybersec space, you will know what those things are, right? And you can see some of their clients, a lot of like government and like public sector clients, right? So they do a lot of, very high value adding services. Yeah, so let me just maybe run through a bit about my day at Amaris, right? So if you're curious, like, what is it like to work in an AI company, right? By the way, they are like a Series A startup, right? So, very young, energetic. You can, reach out to the senior management really, really quickly, right? I almost had like chat with them, like, the CTO or CIO almost every day, right? So I learned a lot from there. So how my day works, I just wake up, check my Slack at night, and then like there's some form of like, then after that I'll like plan my own day. So usually my direct supervisor don't really like have a mandate like what I'm supposed to do during the day, but rather just a broad direction, and I get to have the the autonomy to decide what I want to do, right? Which is really important in to like spur innovation, right? So I actually spend like the good half of the morning just reading papers and like researching, right? So so like pretty much I read about like 5 papers a day, right? And then like go on to just have a lunch break, and then after that I have some implementation kind of thing, like follow the papers or like search for some GitHub links and then follow them, right? And then like maybe have like some calls with superiors as well. Try to catch them up what I'm doing, right? To sync that up as well and to check what kind of things I'm supposed to do the next day, right? I like to go for a run around that like after like 6 p.m., right? And then have my dinner. So actually you don't really like actually the work day ends at 6. But what you want to do after that is totally up to you. Right? Just from my personal experience is that when I went into the company, I didn't have any AI experience, right? So I'm actually taking ML this term only, right? So in the summer, I didn't know anything about ML AI. What happened was that, I had to do a lot of the work outside of work, like you sort of like study, right? So, very fortunately, right, the CTO actually provided me like a little get to go kind of like guide and whatnot. I could, dive into what exactly is ML and AI, right? So yeah, here's some of like the context I had, right? I think like this just showed that you can reach out to almost anyone in the firm very, very quickly. Not only to a direct supervisor, but you can reach out to the senior management like Professor Yu, right? It's really, really good. And then like if you have anything that admin related, you can reach out to Noel, who's in charge of like admin, HR, as well as, but he's also a data scientist, of course, right? So because of the pandemic, didn't get to go to office, right? The only time I went back to office was actually like the last day, right? Had my presentation and whatnot. And but if you are going back to office, you're working there, right? If you're going to work there in the future, I can guarantee you the office is really nice. It's very spacious, right? The environment is very good. Yeah. So yeah, just a little bit about what I did during this whole summer, right? So actually for the 4 months, I kind of like broke down my work into like 3 phases. So you can see like from the first phase was like didn't know anything, right? Went in blind, okay? Crash course into like the ML and auto ML tools like Python. There's of course others as well, but like basically the idea is that there's a lot of things out there that you don't know about, and then like picking all these tools along the way, and then learning about like reinforcement learning, which was really, really interesting. So there was a client that actually wanted to do AI, like sort of like AI trading, right? So I had to sort of like gather some information on reinforcement learning, implement from scratch and whatnot. But of course, once I get an idea, I kind of like research on various baselines and whatnot, and then I created this trader, right? It's not very good, okay, but it's better than buying and holding, that's for sure, right? Yeah. So actually, you can see from the graph, like the y-axis, even though like the shape of the graph is very similar, but you realize that the AI trader is making a lot less loss, right? And that for profit wise, it's making a lot more profit when the market pick up, right? So that's promising. But of course, it's from the shape you see that it still follows the market very much. Yeah. Yeah. So then like then for phase 2, like there was some changes in the sense that now we don't really want to do the AI trading. We want to do human trading, but we want to predict what's going to happen in the market, right? So all this is done on commodities, right? So we were researching about like LPGs, LNGs, gold, copper, and all these things. So this is really interesting, right? Because I'm always interested in like the how the market works and how how we can apply like our technology, what we learn, right, to help traders and whatnot. And this was really a chance for me to like get the practical hands-on skills. Yeah. So yeah, so like phase 2 was really just time series prediction. So like there was really a lot of models that we tried. So if you're someone that's really interested in AI, ML, right, I think like in such an environment, it's awesome because you're not limited to anything, right? Everything is state of the art. There's nothing to follow, right? So you just like plunk in random stuff, and I mean, I don't pray that something good's gonna happen, but like you just trial and error on your own, right? And sometimes you just hit something, right? The graph here, of course, is a very simplified kind of prediction. It's really just like using historical data to predict the future, which by itself is flawed, yes, but it's a very good starting point. Yeah. So you can see like the predicted and the sort of like the test, right? It's sort of like near, right? Sort of near. Okay. Yeah. So then yeah. So let's move on to like to the phase 3 of the work, right? So phase 3 was actually putting all of them together, right? Whatever I've learned, whatever I've done previously, right? So all the time series models that I compiled, right? We're going to put them into like a web app so that it can be served, can be used next time for actual projects with clients, right? So yeah, so I built this web app, right? Within I think a month or something, right? Yeah, so essentially, had to pick up a lot of new technologies on the way, right? Actually, like I only know how to like build web apps, but like all these like scraping, or like this models integration and all this are really new to me. Had to pick them up along the way, which is something that I realized that in a startup environment, nothing is structured. So depending on what the client needs and whatnot, you have to just think of some way, right? And that's really interesting, for those that's really interested in startups or like or innovation ecosystem, right? So yeah, so what did I do in phase 3, right? So essentially, had to scrape up news articles, right? Perform sentimental analysis, right? And sort of like supplement those things into the time series prediction, and then package all of them into a Django web application. And of course, along the way, there's a lot of third-party APIs that had to be used. So for example, like, live preview of links, right? Because we are taking newspaper, like taking news articles, right? So you want to like preview them nicely for the user on the front end, right? Yeah, and like you want to display nice charts. So maybe you're going to use like chart.js, for example, right? And after all, you have to like, package everything like into a container by Docker to be deployed on the CI/CD, right? So these are new, right? I don't really have experience with like Docker and all this, so which I think was very valuable, because like it was this whole internship gave me like a safe environment to try and fail, and if you fail, you can go and ask your ask around, right? Because everyone is like really good at what they're doing, right? So yeah, so those were sort of like my work, right? Now just a bit more about like my takeaway, right? So doing this, this couple of months back in summer, I think first of all, like there's no doubt, right? Technical skills is like a given, right? Because every day you're dealing with like all these like state of the art AI, ML models, trying to modify like underlying algorithms, trying to come up with like web apps that can be deployed, in terms of like production, all these things, right? So those are really, really valuable, I would feel, right? Yeah, and then research and problem solving, that's something that on hindsight, it's really something that will benefit, say, someone like in the long run, right? Because previously, before going for this internship, I'm a bit scared to read papers, right? Because all the structure of the paper is really very intimidating, right? Especially like you see all this like jargons, you don't know where to start, right? But after a while, you start reading like 5 papers a day, and like things just get a bit more palatable. Yeah. And then like for problem solving, again, like nothing is structured. There's no answer to anything, right? Everything you have to go and find out yourself. And like Google and YouTube is probably like the best friend, right? You everything can be found somehow on Google, like Stack Overflow or anything, right? So yeah, that's something that I took away as well. Like for example, right, like pick up a lot of new things like graph neural networks or like reinforcement learning. These are things that I, never even like. I mean, like I've just heard of them, but I've never actually like went into like knowing the like underlying what they actually do, right? So it is through this internship that exposed me to these kind of concepts, and different perspective, right? And because like the senior management was so easy to reach, right? So uh, you know, anytime, right, you can drop like the chief innovation officer, the chief technical officer. In this case, Professor Yu is the CIO and Dr. Patrick is the CTO. Right? They give really amazing insights. I had like a chat with Professor Yu at like, I don't know, like a 2-hour chat at night, like from like 9 p.m. We had like a chat until like 11 p.m. Right? Because it's like he gave really very interesting perspective. Like like usually when we do like predictions on like commodities, right? You just think about price action, sentiments, and whatnot. But actually, like you can do so much more, right? You can look at like the luminosity of like cities, right? Or like of factories in China, right? How like the lighting, how bright they are, certain areas or whatnot can be used to predict into the future, like what's the energy demand for this country or for the world even, right? Yeah, so it's really like perspective that you've never considered. And this really provided me with a lot of ways to think about problems. Yeah. And of course, I would like to say that it really, all these things that, I took away from the internship also benefited me in my own startup. So for those that, don't know about what I do, right, from school, I also run my own startups. So one of them is like a food procurement kind of like startup called Saver. So in Saver, we actually also hire quite a few people, right? And like right now we have like over like 10 plus or 10 plus interns right now, right? So, working like interning in another startup, right? And then like going back to my own startup, like there's so much things that, you can translate, right? Because I realized that, hey, as an intern, right, I really want structure. Okay, I really want to know what's going to happen next week. Even though the startup, it's like very fast moving, you cannot predict too long into the future. But as anyone that's working, you would like some underlying knowledge of what's going to happen, right? Which then prompted me to relook into how I structure tasks for my for my company, right? So essentially right now I'm actually using like project management tools like ClickUp, to sort of like structure ways on what can be done for each week, like, and then we have like pipelines and whatnot. Yeah, and then of course technical wise, applying what I've learned in the AI ML to put it into my own company to like sort of like better my products as well. Yeah, so I think like regardless, right? I think like no matter what, there's so much things that can be wherever you go lah. There's so much things that you can take away to sort of like apply it to your own context. And by the way, Amaris is actually actively hiring. Just yeah. So be it internship, off cycle, on cycle, or like you want to go there for full time. Yeah, you can definitely reach out to them, or maybe I can just reach out to them for you as well, right? My LinkedIn is at the bottom right hand corner. If I can add the LinkedIn as well, connect with me. Yeah, that's I think that's pretty much about what I want to share about my experience for my summer. It's really very interesting. So if anyone is really keen in AI ML, yeah, do look me up. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We will now open up the floor for questions. So if anyone has any questions, you can leave it on the YouTube stream chat.
Yeah, we'll just wait for a while. If there's no question, then yeah. Yeah, I think there shouldn't be any questions. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, Sanjay. So next up, we have Azar to share about his internship experience with 3D Metal Forge. Azar, handing it over to you now. As far,
Yeah.
sorry.
All right. Let me share the screen. All right. Hi. I'll be talking about my 3D Metal Forge company that I was an intern at. So 3D Metal Forge, just a background on the company. 3D Metal Forge is an additive manufacturing company. It provides like end-to-end solutions for customers using their 3D printing and design services. Their printing services are quite wide-ranging. It includes things like FDM, which is what our standard plastic layer by layer printing is, what we can buy and keep at home. They also have DED printing and SLM, both of which are like metal printing. DED is it uses a laser to melt the blown powder as it's deposited layer by layer. SLM is just melting each layer at a time. So customers from these places come from like a wide variety of industries. They engage this company to do provide solutions for certain design issues that they might have. The industries that interact with 3D Metal Forge are quite wide ranging. They can range from oil and gas to defense sometimes. So just now I spoke about end-to-end solutions. So what do I really mean by end-to-end solutions? We can take a look at this insulation pipe. This is one of the things that the company has designed. So normal insulation methods for oil and gas pipes require the person to manually wrap thick layers of insulation around the pipes. So, but this will obviously take quite a significant number of labor hours. So, and by extension, the oil and gas company might lose money. So they approached 3D Metal Forge and they came up with this idea of using a modular version of the pipe, which is like a mold, and it just snaps on to the pipe itself to provide insulation. So this installation made it like 1/3 faster. Is much faster, and the company resulting in like much greater revenue for the oil and gas company. All right, so now that we know what the company does, I can talk about my work experience a little. My work experience as a design engineering intern can be split into like two main areas. First is I did design work, and second is reverse engineering. Design work mostly means that you are designing a part based on customer specifications and you also have to make sure it's ready for 3D printing, which we'll talk about now. When you design a part for 3D printing, you got to be quite careful because you're not machining the component. So things like 90-degree bends or anything is complete because you can't print in mid-air. So yeah, you have to take all these considerations into account. So on the screen, you can see like an example of a design that I did. This is a chemical wash rack. So the customer said that they will be placing rods in between these dividers, and then they'll be sending this for a chemical washer, which is why there's drainage at the bottom and all this. So you see, and at the bottom you can see there are no 90-degree angles. There's nothing that is like less than 45 degrees. So everything is ready for 3D printing, or as they call it in the company, DFAM. So that was one half of the job. Then the other half includes reverse engineering. So reverse engineering is not really as exciting a job as the design work, but it definitely teaches you some fundamental skills that turn out to be quite useful for modules in school, especially like machine element design, which is term 6 module. So this job required me to do 3D modeling engineering components based on engineering drawings. So these drawings can sometimes be quite hard to visualize because they're not always as simple as the crane thing that you see here, the crane hook that you see here. Then after you design this, you generally run like some kind of simulation based on loading scenarios that that your lead engineer will tell you about. You run these simulations in a few softwares. You can use SolidWorks, or most of the time the company also uses things like ANSYS to do it. The 3D modeling softwares and everything that they use here are mostly company-wide. They use SolidWorks, but some people also use this thing called ANSYS Space Claim. There was a guy on the design team who used to do that. It's part of ANSYS. It's also quite a pretty flexible 3D modeling tool. So sometimes you don't have engineering drawing. Sometimes you also have scan components. You don't have the drawing itself, so you can use a 3D scanner to scan the component. After which, you have to go back into the CAD and touch it up actually, because when you scan things, there'll be things like when you scan objects, there'll be things like noise, which are like random points that due to reflection. If you have a very shiny object or something, the scanner works on reflected light, so shiny object will bounce it everywhere, and you might get like random points everywhere. So you need to go back into the CAD and touch it up so that you can use it in your 3D printing. So my main takeaways from here are firstly the interpersonal skills. Working at this company was a pretty interesting experience, and working in a design team was something I thought would be very similar to school, but it's not always the case, because now when you are in a work environment, the team surrounding us they're not students. They are all very, very well versed in whatever they do. So some of the people in the design team have been working in the manufacturing industry, maybe not the additive manufacturing industry, but the manufacturing one for like 15, 20 years. So if you have any issues, you can always go to them. They'll always have some kind of insight to offer you to make your job easier. Secondly, the technical skills that I learned here are definitely invaluable. Simulation in SolidWorks has been very useful for simulation in SolidWorks, especially the CADing portion, engineering drawings, reading. Everything has been very useful for things like MED. And also probably once you start doing your capstone, you'll realize the technical skills for EPD students are very, very useful. And finally, the exposure that I gained in the additive manufacturing industry, at least, so now before I went into this company, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to work as. So now after joining this place, I at least have some kind of focus, and I'm more clear about what my future career could look like down the road. Yeah, so that'll be all from me. Any questions? Yeah, so don't think there are any questions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aspar, for sharing your experience with us. Next up, wait, are there? Yeah, looks like there's no more questions.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so next up we have Tian to share about her internship experience with Hallmas through Singapore Innovates Infinity Series program. Tian, passing it to you.
Yep, hi. I'm unable to share my screen for some reason. Okay. Okay, hi everyone, I'm Tian. So I'll be sharing with you my experience with interning at Hallmas through the SG Innovate internship program. So before I begin, maybe I can just give a brief introduction about myself. So I'm actually a junior in the computer science and design pillar, and I'm graduating in the class of 2022. And right now, my current experiences are actually in development, and more specifically, mobile app development on Android and iOS. And through this internship experience, I also learned UI UX. For myself, I actually have a background and passion in design thinking and social innovation, and my current fifth roles are Swift Coding Club, Design Odyssey, and Dance Derivatives. To give you guys a bit of an overview about SG Innovate as an organization, they actually support deep tech startups in Singapore, and they are forming a network of deep tech enthusiasts and entrepreneurs. So they actually organize quite a few talent programs for undergraduates and graduates to be able to partake in internship opportunities at their startup partners. So I actually participated in the second run of their Infinity Series program, where I was matched with Hallmas as my internship company. So Hallmas is actually a data science and digital therapeutics company in the field of behavioral health, and they want to utilize objective medical evidence to treat mental health and chronic diseases. So one of their products, actually their flagship product is called NeuroBlue, which is actually a data analytics platform used by professionals in the behavioral health, pharmaceutical, and healthcare industry to be able to conduct research on treatment methods. And it relies on Hallmas' very own electronic health records database, which actually contains real-life patient data from around the world. So for my time at Hallmas, I actually interned as a UX designer within the design team, and actually didn't have any prior experience in UX, nor did I have a portfolio. I think my experience was mostly in creating the UI screens during my projects in SUTD. So for those of you who are interested in learning more about a career in UI UX, I hope my sharing can also help provide you some insight. So first and foremost, one of the most fundamental things about being a UX designer is actually in conducting user research for us to be able to validate certain new features or designs that we want to push out. And for my experience, it was actually in terms of how NeuroBlue, the product, wanted to create a new visual experience for users. So this involved a lot of changes in the colors, in the buttons being used, and how the interface is designed. So there are actually two ways that we conduct user research. The first is an unmoderated user test, which is actually an asynchronous test, meaning we launch fixed user test questions to participants online who can just choose when to take the test whenever they want and record their screen whenever they are doing the test and playing with the prototype. The second type of user test is actually called a moderated user test. And this is more like a live interview whereby we get participants to test out the prototype together with us at the same time, and we can clarify any doubts that they may have. However, because it's a pandemic, actually most of these user tests are conducted on Zoom. Yeah. So during when conducting the user research, I was actually able to do quite a few types of user tests, and just to go through a few. The first one is actually an impression test, whereby we actually try to gauge what are the users' feedback on the look and feel of a new design. So it can be questions like, if we were to be testing a dashboard, it could be questions like, oh, what will be the first button or element that you will click on the screen to see whether it correlates to what we expected of users. The second type of test would then be an icon research study. And I think sometimes when you overlook this, I think icons are like, your share button, your send button, any kind of buttons or you see on your apps. These are actually very important when you're launching a new product because you want to correlate any features that you have in your product to things that users would intuitively click on. So it'll be questions like, oh, what do you think would happen if you clicked on that icon and whether it correlated to your expectations. And the third type of test is actually a usability A/B test. I think maybe you guys will be more familiar with this in terms of the term A/B testing, whereby we actually take two design options for a feature and let two different batches of users go through the same exact test questions, and we see whether which design option performs better through analyzing like their time to completion or asking them questions whether the test or the prototype performed the way that they expected it to. And the last type of user test I was able to experience was actually a feature user test. And this is more broadly speaking actually to go through the entire user flow of a new feature with participants. So for example, if we were to be testing a new onboarding flow, we'll ask questions like, how do you feel about the duration of the onboarding experience? Or how would you rate your confidence level on a scale of 1 to 5 in using the feature after going through the onboarding, which allows us to test whether the usability or the effectiveness of the new feature that we have designed is actually good enough. Now, after conducting all of these user research studies, actually a few of the main insights I got is that, curating the right participant profile for your test is very important. You should be getting participants who are of the relevant industry and skill sets. And we should also do things like question long pauses or question any mistakes made in a test and not take their literal answers as the face value answer. So we should look at, if they clicked on the wrong button during the user test, why did they click it and how can we use that to further improve our product? So having conducted many years during internship, also started in a lot of data that had to be analyzed to be able to present the insights effectively to stakeholders like the product manager, who was effectively like my boss. So there are quite a few types of data that I had to analyze, and after reflecting about my internship, I was actually able to come up with this table. So we have things like soft data and hard data, but just to cover a few, one very important type of data is actually emotion, and this is sometimes often overlooked when we prioritize their written responses instead. So things like emotion could be what is their tone of voice when they were answering your questions, or what are some of the language or adjectives that they used in their written responses. So if you see in this image here, so their written responses to our questions could be like, yes, I feel the navigation and order does not make sense. And then we can actually try to tag a certain emotion to this insight, which is like, oh, does not make sense. Does that relate to confusion? So these are small things that we can do to make our analysis a bit easier. And in terms of user actions, this is also what I mentioned earlier in terms of like, where did they click? Where did users click most often and where did they make mistakes most often? Which can really help us to identify what are some of the key areas to improve in our prototype and the flaws of our design. And the third one would be in terms of word frequency analysis. So these are things like, if we had written feedback or if we locked down verbal feedback, being able to sort through them, doing a bit of data processing, data cleaning to pick out like adjectives like clean, friendly, or useful.
Looks like we are having some technical issues. We try to correct it as soon as possible and get back to you.
Oops. Hello.
Okay, welcome, Kiran. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, where did I drop off?
Yeah, looks about right.
Not sure if I went through this already, but yeah, word frequency analysis is actually a really important type of data that I actually also learned to analyze. So this is like taking the written responses which users actually gave when they went through our test to questions, and being able to filter out certain adjectives that they use, like clean, friendly, or aesthetic, and sorting through how many times these adjectives actually appeared in their responses, which can really help us to identify what are their true thoughts about the current design and what to improve on. So I would actually want to highlight another part of my internship process, which is actually being able to design the user onboarding process. So this was actually really meaningful for me because I feel that this is something very important that in a lot of products, to be able to retain users on your app or platform. So one of the most important things that I think really helps you to design effectively is actually understanding the user mental model. So user mental model is actually how your target user would think when you are using the product, and how they would therefore interpret information to do certain actions on your platform. So it's very important to understand this to be able to build a design onboarding process that would be intuitive for them, and that would allow them to keep using the platform and not switch to other platforms. So if you look at this image here, an example would actually be this instruction modal. So these are actually pop-ups that appear on the platform when users are going through a tutorial, when they use a platform for the first time. And if you look at the one on the left, it actually looks quite clean, right? It looks like it doesn't have as much information. It's quite straightforward. And one of the actually contains, more words, and it contains this like add section UI element. So while we may think that this one, the left one, would perform better because it's simpler, maybe easier to understand. But the truth is that through our user tests, and I was able to validate this through conducting a user test, that actually the right one performed better, even though it looks like slightly more cluttered. And this is because there were UI elements like this add section button, which correlated to buttons that the user would be able to see in the interface itself. So this really really highlights how we need to validate how users actually think, and not follow through our own assumptions in designing certain features. Another important insight when designing the user onboarding experience is actually in terms of balancing design and technical feasibility. And I think this is actually quite a vital skill as a UX designer, because you'll be designing the designs, but eventually you'll be passing them off to developers. And if your design is too costly, it's just going to cost your organization more time. So you really need to understand what the production timeline is like. When are you expected to deliver this feature? When is the feature going to be launched to users? And think about how you can minimize unnecessary development costs. So in my case, because I'm from the computer science and design pillar, so with some kind of technical background, being able to read documentation and know which designs can be implemented with the API that the developers were using, it really helped a lot in terms of allowing my designs to be accepted much earlier on, and allowing developers to work on it, and make the whole process much more efficient. And of course, we should always try to achieve the low-hanging fruits of design earlier. So whatever is easier to implement and fits the purpose, we should just use that first, instead of going for designs that are too extreme or too futuristic. So just to sum up my overall internship experience, I would say I really learned how to communicate with stakeholders effectively. So as I mentioned earlier, I had having to present your research insights to the product manager, or having to hand off your designs to the developers. This all involved a lot of effective communication and discussion about how to streamline processes. The second thing is actually on fast-paced environment of a startup, which I really got to experience in Homas, because you could be doing something on Friday, and then on Monday everything just changes. Like you'll be working on something else, the design gets changed 100%. So I guess that is just the reality of working in a startup, right? Things are going to be moving very fast, but at the same time, this means that there's a lot of potential for impact as an intern, because you'll be able to sit in at the same level as your colleagues in design discussions, in reviewing prototypes, and in providing improvements. And the third thing is actually in terms of how I feel that through my own experiences, I was able to build greater user empathy. And this is actually a very important skill in UX design, to be able to design for your target users and not for yourself and not what you think is the best. And the fourth one is actually that I'm very thankful to be able to take a lot of ownership over many design tasks that I was given in my internship. So things like, the product onboarding experience that I mentioned earlier, but I was even able to do things like designing the in-app feedback process, which I think that my company really gave me a lot of opportunities to learn. And I was able to see my work being shown in like the production prototype or the production app. So that was really rewarding. And on the right here is actually a Medium post that I was able to post through my company's Medium account. So if you would like to give it a read, go ahead. It basically sums up what I learned from conducting a lot of user research. So finally, to just have some final takeaways for everyone about undergoing an internship in general. Firstly, I would say that it's very important for us to learn how to take ownership of your learning experience. I say this because coming into the internship, my supervisor was actually like, what do you want to learn? What do you want to get out of the internship? And sometimes, I'm school is very busy, but so sometimes we don't have time to think about what we want to learn when we go for internship. We just think about, oh, okay, I just need to go to a good company. I just need to learn. I just need to have learned something. But it's very important to frame what exactly you want to learn and whether it aligns with your learning goals, with your career goals. So how we can do this is really like being clear with your supervisor or telling them like, hey, I'm joining this internship because I want to know what it's really like to be a UX designer. I want to be able to push a feature to production, for example. And then this can help you and your supervisor to clarify what exactly you need to do in an internship, what kind of task you can give to you for you to be able to achieve these learning goals. The second takeaway is actually about interacting with different teams. And this definitely varies for a personal company size, because the larger the company, the harder it is for you to really talk to everyone. But I'm really thankful that for a startup, it's really easy to like, just schedule a coffee chat with people from like different functions or different departments, like with developers or with data scientists, to really just understand their work and learn. This also helps you to learn how like your work actually helps them, or how you guys work alongside each other. And this can help you to learn more about what other industries are like, but also improve your efficiency as a team. And the last one is actually about respecting the production timeline. I think this is very important, especially for a fast-paced startup, because you need to be able to deliver designs on time, deliver the next product launch on time. So it's really important to understand, how your work plays into the grand scheme of things, how when you're supposed to deliver designs, or like whether you're being too late, whether you can help to streamline processes for your company. So understanding this can really help you to know what to prioritize on and how you can design with better intention and feasibility for the whole team. Yep, so actually that's all I have to share for today. So I hope this sharing has been useful and insightful for you, and thank you for your attention. Feel free to connect with me through whatever of these platforms here, and look forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you, Tian. If anyone has any questions for her, please leave them on the YouTube stream chat, and she will answer them.
Oh, sorry, am I supposed to read the questions myself?
No, it's okay. I will. Okay. So the first question is, what's a quick UI layout tip?
Quick UI layout tip. I mean, okay. I guess something interesting I learned is that, margins in the application, like if you're designing an app screen, right? Sometimes before I took on a UX internship, I was just like, okay, whatever looks good, whatever looks correct works. But actually, a quick tip I learned is that, usually margins are in units of 6 or 8. So like if you have like elements between each other, you can like make sure that they are in intervals of 6 or 8, and it'll just look better for some reason. I think this is like it's just a common UX tip. And if you want more resources, something very useful is actually called the Nielsen Norman Group. They actually give a lot of UX resources in terms of like how you can conduct user research, or how can you best design a screen for like different purposes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Your next question is, what advice would you give to someone who's interested in UI UX?
Wow, okay, like this is so broad. Like, I think one thing that we are seeing is that UI UX is not industry specific to someone in the arts stream, or like specific to anyone. It's actually like we see a lot of people like jumping either from tech to UI UX, or any field for that matter. And I'll say that before deciding whether you want to join, I think what you need to understand is what the role entails. Because coming in, I actually didn't know what UX design is like. I was just like, oh, okay, I'll be designing something. But actually, there's a lot more that goes behind it. You have to be able to know what the user think, and it actually involves a lot of research, either conducting it yourself or doing secondary research about what your user profile is like. So I guess before you decide to go into the industry, maybe you can read some resources like what I mentioned earlier, or you can try your hand at a few internships. But I would say the best thing for you to do is also build up your portfolio, because for me, I think I was lucky to get this internship without portfolio. But actually, once you go out to the larger world out there, UI UX is a very competitive industry. So it's important for you to build out your portfolio, either by designing random screens or like redesigning a certain popular app. And having that to show for really helps to boost your portfolio a lot more. And of course, another thing would be like scheduling coffee chats with people who are in UX positions, UI UX positions, and get to know more about it and what it's really like from them.
Okay. Thank you so much. Are there any more questions? Let me just check if there are any more questions. Okay, I think that's all there is for now. Thank you so much, and for all those who are watching, we will be taking a short break, and we'll be back at 4 p.m. to see the live stream of Gather Downtown. And at 4:30 p.m., we will have our second keynote address by Ms. Yvonne Tan. See you guys back at 4 p.m.
Thank you.
guys, welcome back. We will be going through the live tour of Dyadada town. Sit back and enjoy. Thank you, Brian, for giving us a tour on GatherTown. We will begin our keynote speech shortly at 4:30 p.m. For our keynote speaker, we are honored to invite our guest keynote speaker, Ms. Yvonne Tan, to give her keynote address. Ms. Yvonne Tan is the Digital Motor Engineering Manager. She's a key figure in Dyson Digital Motor Production and the Dyson NTU studio in Singapore. Miss Yvonne Tan, take it away.
Hi, good afternoon, distinguished guests and fellow SUTD students. Let me quickly share my screen. Okay, good afternoon. Before I let you watch this video, and I think this keynote speech itself, we are talking about design thinking and Dyson. So as you all know that Dyson is an engineering company, and technology-wise, we actually firstly induce in us is we solve the problem others seem to ignore. So let me let you watch this video about philosophy.
In a way, problem solving is a disease. You know, you want to do it, and although each one's a headache, it's there to be solved. It's a steeple to climb. It's a mountain to climb. Mountaineers have that problem, that disease, and that we have that. We were a group of engineers starting to want to make a different type of product with better technology, and we carried on like that. I have 35 years experience in making things, and it's taught me a lot. It's no good just being a designer. You've got to make a product that works better. Things are too heavy, things are too polluting, things use too much energy, things don't perform as well as they should, things don't last as long as they should. There are just hundreds of problems in every product. What we're trying to do every day is make products work better. And if we develop breakthrough technology like high-speed electric motors, for me that's a huge success. Because this enables so many products to perform so well. If you always do what you know is going to work, then okay, you'll have less failure. But you'll never make a substantive change or a breakthrough. What we're doing is trying to do something different and better, trying to advance technology, trying to advance what a product can do. So we're risk-taking all the time. We're stepping off into the unknown, sort of grand word, but we're pioneering. And I think we've gathered around us a group of people who want to do that. It's not a question of coming in to make money. We're coming in to make the business grow. We come in to make better technology and design and develop better performing products.
So if you look at it, this is Sir James himself in the beginning when he started off with the frustration he had with the vacuum cleaner. Back then, of course, we know it's all about vacuum cleaner. And of course, when as a user, when the bag is choked up with dust and all the fragment stuff, the suction power will be lost. And therefore, towards the end of it, unless you change the bag, you will not get the kind of performance that you want from as you knew a brand new bag. So he has often been frustrated with it, and therefore he said, why not a bagless vacuum cleaner? So in this process itself, like SUTD, you actually do a lot of projects, you do a lot of product design, and also you know that there's a lot of iteration. And most of you might know or have read about it, that how many prototypes did he make to actually finally come up with the first working prototype. So it was about 5,126. So in short, it's the 5,000 number 5,500 and 127, that is the working one. So of course, they think that, the problem with bags are simple, and the fact that they're wasteful and we need to replace them often. Of course, the DC01 right here in the picture is the one that he designed with to separate the dust from the air and using the centrifugal force. And actually no loss of suction as well, because it's no dusty bag and there's no single use of bag that you need to change. It's also in line about design thinking right now that the world is changing and evolving towards sustainability. We also want to be responsible that what we are designing and what we are putting out into the market is not something that is wasteful. So of course, then you can see in terms of design iteration, it's not about something that you design once and you will actually live with it. Because I think a lot of us here in the audience as well, we can call ourselves a perfectionist in some sense about how we are stubborn in our design, our way of thinking, our way of thinking that how a product should work. So even if you look at this, this is also how we revolutionize the supersonic, the hair dryer. On the far left is actually the first iteration that it came out with. And we look at it that what is our design thinking? Why do we actually come up with this supersonic in this form? And the motivation is also to revolutionize what is already out there 20 years. The fact that we know the hair dryer is doing its job, not that it's not blowing the right amount of air, but the fact that there's a lot of feedback that is unsolved problem by the hair dryer, by the end user as well. If you realize it, most of the early days hair dryer, the motor is big and bulky, and it's often at the top end of it. So basically, when you actually hold a hair dryer, you are actually holding the weight at the top. As you know, in the science and physics itself, it will actually give your wrist a lot of fatigue. So we went on to think about, well, can we make a lighter and better motor that can actually fit into the handle? Therefore, the bulk of the weight is actually held by the end user, and then it will cause less fatigue to the hairstylists that have to use it day to day. So design thinking is also about thinking of the end user. How are they utilizing it? How are they going to put your new product into use? So therefore, we have all this product different iteration to improve based on also our own user feedback, that we get to understand how a hairstylist use a hairdryer day to day, or also like myself, how do I use my hairdryer day to day? And all this are collection of the feedback that we put into the next design. So earlier when I mentioned the first vacuum cleaner that he actually produced was done by 5,127 prototypes. And of course, we were looking at it, or in school, we are being taught of a general process about we cannot make mistakes. We are not supposed to do things that we know is wrong. And that is correct, to put it that way. But in terms of wrong thinking, it's also a way of how we trigger ourselves to say that how can we evolve from the wrong thinking and move on from there. And the fact that wrong thinking are not necessarily the fact that it's not the right way of executing the item, but also giving us another additional ideas about how can we put this in a different way of working. Yeah. And also in terms of the design, engineering, and Dyson, it's about perseverance, not giving up. The fact that when we do a prototype and when we actually have the idea of what to produce, we will actually put it into paper, drawing, discussion, a lot of group discussion that we actually put in. It's also a perseverance to say that what have you set up as an objective and what have you set up as implementation, and perseverance. Do not just give up that when you hit a roadblock or anyone just tell you that, no, this is not going to work, but constructively ask for feedback. If someone should tell you that it's not going to work, ask them, why do you think it's not going to work? So that you can get all this constructive feedback to help in your next iteration, rather than taking, no, wrong, it's not going to work, and then move away from it. So take all the feedback, whether is it a direct feedback of discouragement or encouragement, and chunk it into a good idea that you can put into your product iteration. And maybe you would be laughing at it that we celebrate mistakes. The fact that the earlier we discover mistake is actually we enjoy the fact that the early failure will help us make a good product earlier. Because just imagine as the same as when we do anything in our life, even when we do a assignment, you'll rather get your wrong answer earlier to be corrected so that eventually you can get to the right answer faster. So it's the same logic. We'll actually, when we do prototype, when we work on our design, we would like to discover all this mistake earlier. The more mistake that we actually expose, we actually challenge each other to come up with a different idea. We challenge each other to push further about what can we do better on this design, and what can we also change in terms of not just about the design change, but it's also about the usability, about the material use, about how are the different ways that we can make it differently. So here we have this vacuum that is actually started in Japan. And the design process itself is not, I wouldn't say everybody have heard about design process day in, day out. But here in Dyson, we follow the a process of design, build, and test. Now, of course, if you look at the brief, it's as simple as that 3 words. And we do, in terms of design itself, we do a lot of mind mapping. We go to the drawing boards. You can, like this day, we have evolved into digital notebook, digital whiteboard itself. We actually doodle quite a bit and do a lot of mind mapping in terms of the design stage. And then we just throw in about how building to things and also do the intro. And then everybody will chip in their ideas on that section. And then we'll go on to the sketch itself. So the fact that how pretty a sketch looks isn't important, because we have of course, there's now the use of software that can help you beautify stuff. But sketching is something that we actually believe that we can actually start the conversation on, and then when we have that discussion, and it's about communicating the idea to those around you instantaneously. Right? When you're having that design brainstorming, immediately you do a sketch. It's also for you to get a confirmation about the design, the features that you're putting in, and you get a confirmation of that. So like, maybe I want to give you an example. Look at this doodle itself. You might think that, yeah, it's like a string of lines. It doesn't mean much as well. But do we know that actually this is a sketch of a Guggenheim Museum? This is how it looks like in actual. So it's a real sketch that is done by the architect to actually show that what is this building going to be in the first instance. And this is also a showcase of how our vacuum cleaner, the early stage of how James actually sketches the first one with the rollerball head and also the cleaner head, and how he sketched a different design before he went on to the build stage. And of course, he draw out the cyclone and the fact that how is it going to work in terms of how is the airflow, what are the strokes and the mechanical design, the airflow. And then here from there, we go into the build process. Like a lot of time, like now we are very lucky. We have different technology out there. We have 3D printing that's available. But here in Dyson, we like cardboards. So as you can see right here in this photo itself, it's like papers and cardboard, rulers, pencil, and very, very basic stuff, if you can know it. So as you see at the top left itself is actually the early stage corded vacuum cleaner. So we actually put that together by using of cardboards.
our user to compare with other products.
Yep. So then, of course, with all the builds, you will need to test it. So in a sense that when we build that, of course, you don't test that cardboard, you have an initial test. But then when you build as an end product, we also do a lot of vigorous testing in terms of user profile, understanding how the user will use it on a day-to-day basis. And then we design automation around it, test it day and night to see what is the reliability of each component. Yep. So before I show the last video itself, it's about the whole motor making process and also the product process. It's also the design thinking is not just on the product itself, but you also have to think about what are the processes to assemble the product and how do we actually design around it to enhance the manufacturability. So this is how a Dyson digital motor is being assembled. There's no sound, just in case you're checking. So this is a rotor assembly process, and the stator winding is actually the bobbin is actually winded by the robots. So one of the thing of consideration as well, because of the precision, therefore we use robots itself to ensure the repeatability. Because as you can imagine, if we're trying to do this by the human hand, typically we will not be able to get that resolution out of like hundreds and millions of it. And then subsequently, this is also how the product is being tested in a chamber. And we actually test the acoustic performance as well of the product. And if you look at it, the key learning principle and the understanding of the design is process and put it into practice. And many times people also look at it in terms of design thinking, is it only restricted to mechanical field? I think often we kind of put it into a lot of emphasis that a lot of design is just mechanical. But design is actually a thing that has been used for every other field in engineering as well. As you are in SUTD, you will know that in the different fields that you are studying and embarking on, there will also be design thinking within the process. Even when you're designing an application, a mobile app, you also have design and the element itself about how are you going to design the app. And in Dyson, it's the same as well, because we have multiple fields that in the technology skill set, that in sensor algorithm, we also have the design elements, thinking of how are we going to work out the algorithm. Of course, mechanical system, mechatronics, and machine learning. We also have the pickup system that we look at it, and the brush bar design elements. And even in connectivity, we also have to design how are we going to connect with our customer from our product. Yeah. So the fact that I want to leave with this slide is also the our thinking process. The design thinking starts with the fundamental of solving problem is not enough. We must do it first, because we have evolved around from we want to solve a problem that nobody cares into we want to solve a problem and we do it first. So at the same time, I also want to bring you to the attention that of the James Dyson Award, the fact that this is the 2019 Marina Tax International winner, that she actually is one of using the fish scale and make into a recyclable plastic. And Oris's is actually 2020 our sustainable winner from the Philippines. And also the last but not least, the Blue Box, the 2020 international winner. So why would I want to bring this to you? And also the fact that we want design and product making to be celebrated. This James Dyson Award is one of the competition out there, and SUTD are quite known to have a lot of projects, especially from your capstone. And we'll really be looking forward to having all your capstone projects enter in one of the James Dyson Award. Yeah. With this, I will end my speech here. Thank you. Do we have any Q&A or?
If anyone has any questions, they can type it out into the YouTube stream chat and I will bring you the questions.
I'll be happy to send around some of the information on the James Dyson Award winners around if you are interested. Like, I mean, if you want to know more, because the marina tax itself is actually from a new form of bioplastic made from the organic waste of fish processing industry and red algae. Yeah. And then maybe Oricel, if you want to read more, is made from waste corp. And they uses technology to synthesize from the upcycled crop waste to absorb the stray UV light from sunlight and convert it into a clean, renewable electricity. Yeah. Then earlier, I think I showed that Blue Box is actually a new way to detect breast cancer at home. So it's just using urine sample, and crucially, it's a point of care like for biomedical device for pain-free and a non-invasive and low-cost kind of detection.
Okay, there was a question for you in the Zoom chat from Prof. Pei. Can you share your personal experience at Dyson?
I could, but maybe Prof. Pei, can you help? Is what kind of personal experience were you looking at? I mean, working wise, I know, or design thinking.
Okay, Kilian, maybe you can turn on your mic and ask question.
Yvonne, Kinong here. Thank you so much. I think my question is just want to inspire our own student, you know, as a ladies engineering manager, you know, how is your personal experience at Dyson itself? I was an engineering manager for a company before, and taking care of quite a big group of engineers. So just want you to maybe help us to inspire our student. No? First, lady engineer, being a leader in this field, and you know, how the environment at Dyson inspire both young engineer as well, you know, maker or thinker, to be further you know, passionate in their idea, or even product now that they have in mind, maybe in the Dyson environment. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kiran. Perfect. So that's a very good question. I think I often get asked about being a female engineer. And I guess I'm proud to always say that I'm an engineer to everyone out there. And I would say not about being female engineer is difficult. Being an engineer is not easy to start with. And what is exciting is also being an engineer is you're passionate about it. So you will actually put your differences aside. Whether I think female or male is no different. That is one thing we celebrate about in Dyson. I think in a lot of other companies in SUTD as well. And I can also see a lot more female engineering students, which is very, very encouraging. And the fact that in terms of, I actually lead the Dyson Digital Motor team, the mechanical design in Singapore, and I have a team in Philippines as well. And in fact, I find that this is a privilege because I've been working with a lot of technical professional, and we do not see each other as a female or male being, but we see each other as a brainchild of engineering, and we are here to solve a problem. And that's also the reason why that we enjoy being together. The pandemic is not helping us, but we still gather together in the span of whiteboard. We come up with digital whiteboard to spark ideas, to ensure that we read each other's thoughts outright and discuss about it so that we can actually solve the problem with our technical skill. And also some people will also say that does being a female engineer set you as a disadvantage? So now me being an engineering manager in Dyson can tell you that it doesn't give you a disadvantage, but rather that it's your showcase of your technical skill and also your ability to lead, you will get there. And the opportunity will only be given for the people that persevere, like what we mentioned about design thinking earlier. Do not give up. And even if you do not get there, doesn't mean you're not good. It's probably that you need to gain more experience and more exposure to get to where you are.
Thank you, and very inspiring, Yvonne. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you, Prof, for the question. And maybe for everyone that do not know, perseverance as well is also continuous learning. So I'm also actually your fellow student in SUTD, currently doing my doctorate there. So it's also about trying to put yourself out there. Whatever is you're uncomfortable or you're not familiar, it's always to try it out. So once you put that step forward and you try it out, you will actually get to a better understanding about what is your capability and what do you enjoy doing.
Thank you so much. Prof. Poon is also in. Prof. Poon, do you have any questions from Ms. Yvonne?
Thanks, Neha. Apologies for joining in late. I'm just enjoying the conversation. Thank you. Thanks, Yvonne, for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks, Prof. Poon, for having me.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Yvonne Tan, for your insightful keynote address. It was very inspiring to all of us who were listening and watching. Next, we are pleased to invite Professor Lim Se Chun, Associate Provost of Student Affairs, to host our award ceremonies.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. First up, we have the Cleanest Classroom Award, awarded to Cohort 20F10. Congratulations, Cohort 20F10.
Congratulations. Well done.
So we have the photo taking session.
Congratulations. Well done. Is it done?
I think so. Okay. The next award goes to the Special Classroom Award, a commendation that goes out to cohort 20 FO9.
Congratulations again. Well done.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, can all the students who are receiving awards please turn on their cameras? Okay, we will re-announce the first award. So in order to take the photos.
Okay.
So
let's do
the
that.
cleanest, yeah, sorry. The cleanest classroom award goes to cohort 20 F10. Congratulations, cohort F10.
Congratulations. Well done.
Okay. The next award goes to the Special Classroom Award, a commendation that goes to cohort 20 FO9.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thanks, Prof.
Thank you.
Okay. Class spirit is very important to SUTD. So here we have the winners of the Best Class Spirit Award going out to cohort 20 FO5. Congratulations, cohort 5.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you. Yes, shout out to FO5, FO5 best class.
Wonderful.
Congratulations. Trophies can be collected at the One Stop Center. Cash prize will be credited to your account, and please contact Miss Lim B. Fung if you need more information. Next up, we have the top posters voted by the students and staff. This year, we'll have 2 most voted posters per category. For the first category, we have the category of awards. We have the category awards for internship. And the first award goes to the internship Razor.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thanks.
The second award goes to the internship Lions Bot.
Congratulations again. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. The next category of poster winners is for the overseas posters. The first award winner is Berkeley Summer Session.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Wonderful.
And the next winner is Summer at Technical University of Berlin.
Congratulations.
Hi, Prof.
Well
Thank
done.
you. Thank you.
Congratulations. And the next category of winners is for the Europe posters. The first award going out to airport congestion delays in the ASEAN region.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We want to thank Prof. Luno for all his help as well for this Europe.
Wonderful.
The next award goes out to 3D printing to support medical education and clinical procedure skills.
Congratulations.
Last but not least, the last award category goes to the special project category. The first winner being Chuck Ball.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So much.
The last award goes out to DDZ.
Congratulations. Well done.
Congratulations to all the winners. Thank you, Prof. Lim. We would
You're
now
welcome.
like to invite our provost, Prof. Poon Kok Kwang, to give his closing address for LCC 2021.
Thank you very much, Neha. Can you all of you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thanks, Sechun. Good afternoon, students, staff, and invited speakers. I think as shared by President and Prof. Pei in the opening of our 9th Learning Celebration Carnival, or we call it LCC. This is one of the major highlights that we hold every year. And the purpose, of course, is for us to inculcate a culture of self-reflection. And also this very important part where we share our innovation and experiential learning in various programs, and also to celebrate the achievements that we have just undertaken by Prof. Lim. So I was told that this event started in 2013, which means that we are 9 in the series, a very amazing record. The form and the content of this event has evolved over the years. And I was told that initially it was actually driven by the Office of Undergraduate Studies. But in the last few years, students have actually stepped forward to take the lead, which is amazing. To me, is an amazing demonstration of the kind of leadership we have among our student population. So that shows commitment. It shows a collaborative spirit. And this year is no exception. But to me, this year is even a greater manifestation because we are doing it under these difficult circumstances. But I think we have all adjusted to this new normal. And so I really want to commend the root, our student government and our student organizers for showing that kind of ingenuity and resilience just to make this particular event happen. Is to me a major achievement. So let me comment on their work. I've actually received this list from our UG office. If you don't mind, let me thank the organizers for this night LCC, led by Qing Yi, and the members will be Roden, Brian, Gerald, Jennifer, Visha, Kaveri, Kisha, Jing Jie and Jia Jie. My apologies if I did not include your name, but I thought it's good to let everybody know the kind of hard work that's been put in. And I'm very happy just to know that many more students have actually stepped forward to share the experience using Zoom and YouTube. And this is basically upholding the spirit that we have in SUTD. And I'm hoping that everybody will be doing equally well as we navigate ourselves forward in these circumstances. But let me also thank our speakers. They're all very busy people and they've taken precious time to join us. So we have architect Tan Shaoyan that you all heard from CPG. And also we just heard from Ms. Yvonne Tan from Dyson Singapore. And again, you know, their speech inspiring, insightful. I hope all of us gain a lot from them. So a very big thanks from me as well. In conclusion, let me congratulate all of us. Students have organized it, students have participated, and certainly all my colleagues who have come in to support this particular event. So I think it's really an exciting conclusion just before we go off for the weekend. I'm glad that we had this particular LCC organized so successfully. So with that, I'll stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Poon. To all our viewers, thank you for joining us at SUTD LCC 2021. You can still head over to our website at lcc.sutd.edu.sg or gather.town and Campus Center to check out the various posters. Have a great weekend ahead, and we'll see you again next year. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you, Neha.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Well done.
Thank you.